everyone, so my name is Ray Ejiado Jr. and I'm currently taking a Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English. So, for today's topic, I'm gonna discuss to you about multiculturalism and the drama. Okay, so before anything else guys, I would like to say that this topic was assigned to me by our instructor to discuss and research more about this topic. So, before anything else, we would like to identify first the meaning of multiculturalism. So when we say multiculturalism, it is a descriptive term and refers to cultural diversity where two or more groups with distinctive beliefs or cultures exist in a society. It means that in one society, there are more or multiple cultures that exist within a particular place. And it can also refer to government policy as a formal recognition of the cultural distinctiveness of particular groups. So, what I've said earlier, in a place where there are multiple or cultural diversity, short, we have here a multiple cultures in one society. So, another meaning is it implies a positive endorsement of cultural diversity. So next, multiculturalism is the coexistence of diverse cultures. Remember guys, coexistence of diverse cultures, where culture includes racial, religious, or cultural groups and is manifested in customary behaviors, cultural assumptions and values, patterns of thinking, and communicative style. So these are the meaning of Oxford English Dictionary. For them, it offers a broad definition of multiculturalism as the characteristics of multicultural society. Okay, so take note, it is the characteristics of a multicultural society and the policy or process whereby the distinctive identities of the cultural groups within such a society are maintained or supported. So that's the explanation of Oxford Dictionary. So next, we have here the meaning of multiculturalism, wherein it stands as a challenge to liberal democracy. Okay, so another meaning is in liberal democracies, all citizens should be treated equally under the law by extracting the common identity of citizens. The focus is the citizen here. So, from the real, social, cultural, political, and economic positions and identities of real members of society. These are the multiculturalism as a challenge to traditional liberalism. So another one, we have here that leads to a tendency of homogenize the collective of citizens and assume a common political culture that all participate in. So that's the multiculturalism as a challenge to traditional liberalism. However, that abstract views ignores other politically salient features of the identities of political subjects that exceed the category of citizen, such as race, religion, class, and sex. Okay, so although claiming the formal equality of citizens, the liberal democratic view tends to underemphasize ways in which citizens are not, take note guys, are not in fact equal in society. So it means they are not equally in a society. Okay, so we have here the multiculturalism impact on education. So I'm asking or I'm thinking, what are the impact of multiculturalism in our education? Okay, so we have here some examples of how multiculturalism has affected the social and political spheres are found in revision of curricula, particularly in Europe and North America. So, and the expansion of the Western literary and other canons that began during the last quarter of the 20th century. So focus here is the Europe and the North America. When we say multicultural education, relates to education and instruction designed for the cultures of several different races in an educational system. So, several races. It doesn't matter whether you are black or whether you belong to what kind of race. Okay, it is considerable. Okay, so this approach to teaching and learning is based upon consensus building, respect, fostering cultural pluralism within racial societies. Multicultural education acknowledges and encourages positive inter-classroom atmospheres. Next, we have here the challenges to multiculturalism. So, what do you think are the challenges of multiculturalism? Okay, so I will give it to you guys. So, please listen, okay? There are two primary objections to multiculturalism. Okay, so first, we have here multiculturalism privileges the good of the certain groups over the common good, thereby potentially eroding the common good in favor of monetary interests. So that's the first one. The second one we have here, multiculturalism undermines the notion of equal individual rights. Okay, so the second one, it imposes, or it simply means that it is all about the individual rights, thereby weakening the political value of equal treatment. So this one, or the second one, is it's all about the human rights, or individual rights, your rights, equal or political treatment to everyone. Okay, so that's the number two objections of multiculturalism. So another one is we have here multiculturalism raises other questions. So it raises other questions, and there is the question of which cultures will be recognized. So that's our common questions for multiculturalism. We have here also the theorist that word the multiculturalism can lead to a competition between cultural groups, all for recognition, and that this will further reinforce the dominance of the dominant culture. Okay, so the theories are just simply means that they are word because multiculturalism may lead to recognition or dominance of dominant culture. So that's the point that I've read a while ago. So further, the focus on cultural group identity may reduce the capacity of coalitional political movements that might develop across differences. Okay, so it might develop across the individuals' differences or cultures' differences. We have here the theorist of the Marxist and the feminists. They say that it expressed worry about the dilution of other important differences shared by members of a society that do not necessarily entail a shared culture, such as class and sex. Class and sex, or the shared culture such as class and sex, are mentioned earlier when I'm defining the multiculturalism. Okay? So next, we have here the multicultural politics. Multiculturalism is closely associated with identity politics. So, political and social movement that have group identity as the basis of their formation and the focus of their political action. So, those improvements attempt to further the interest of this group or of their group members and force issues importance to their group members into the public sphere. So, that's the multicultural politics. In contrast to multiculturalism, so identity politics movement are based on the shared identities of participants rather than on a specifically shared culture. Okay? So, however, both identity politics and multiculturalism have in common the demand for recognition and redress for past iniquities. So we have here the second topic, the drama. So we all know that drama is a story enacted on stage for a live audience. Okay. The performance that you have seen or that you saw in stage live or in video are some types of drama. When we say drama, it is the story enacted on stage for a live audience. So, as what I've told you earlier, it is a performance in a stage that you saw or that you've seen in videos or live, okay? The origin of drama. So, the word drama comes from the Greek verb dran. Take note, guys. The Greek verb dran, which means to do, or the earliest known plays were written around the 5th century BC, produced for festivals to honor Dionysus, the god of wine and fertility. Okay, so we have here the dramatic structure. I will show you the dramatic structure. Okay, so like the plot of a story, the plot of a play involves characters who face a problem or conflict. Okay, so as you can see, we have here the exposition wherein the characters and conflict are introduced. And then we have here the complications or the tension builds, and then it rises up to the climax point of highest tension. Action determines how the conflict will be resolved, and then it goes down until resolution. So in resolution, the conflict is resolved and the play ends. We have here the conflict. So it is a struggle or clash between opposing characters or forces. So these are the conflict that may develop in dramatic structure. So it's either between characters who want different things or the same thing. It's either also between a character, his or her circumstances. And the last, we have here the within a character who is torn by competing desires. That's the three that may develop in dramatic structure. Okay, so as a while ago, I discussed to you a conflict. So these are the other meaning of conflict, or the further explanation about conflict. So it is the internal or external struggle or problem between opposing forces, ideas, or interests that create dramatic tension. Okay? So, next, if we have conflict, we have here also the tragedy. I know you are all familiar about tragedy. Okay, so when we say tragedy, it is a play that ends unhappily. So tragedy is an end or a story or a play that ends unhappily. So ending of a story is quite a little bit sad or mournful. It explains unhappy ending. Okay, so most classical Greek tragedies deal with a serious or universal theme such as, take note, right and wrong, justice and injustice, life and death. So tragedies pit human limitations against the larger forces of destiny, of his or her destiny. Okay, so it's either the protagonist. Classical tragedies is a tragic hero. So this hero, it's either it is a noble and in many ways admirable. It's either also has a tragic flaw, a personal feeling that leads to a tragic end. So it's either that protagonist, it's either it has a pride, rebelliousness, and jealousy. Okay, further explanation about tragedy. The best example of that is Romeo and Juliet. I know you are all familiar about Romeo and Juliet, wherein Romeo and Juliet died in the end of a drama or in the story. The problem or the struggle there is in between their family and the again of the relationship of Romeo and Juliet. So we have here the comedy. So when we say comedy, it is a form of drama that has happy ending. Humor comes from the dialogue and situation. So it is another types of drama wherein the ending is very happy. A comedy is a play that ends happily. Okay, so the plot usually centers on a romantic conflict. The main characters in comedy could be anyone. For example, it is nobility, it is townspeople, or servants, or slaves. It simply means everyone. Okay, so we have here also the modern comedy, the gender in these romantic plot patterns sometimes are reversed. So, a modern play may be tragedy, comedy, or a mixture of the two. So, a modern play or the modern drama, it is the combination of tragedy or the comedy, wherein it usually focuses, take note, it is usually focuses on personal issue. So, it means personal, it is your personal issue in yourself. Okay, another thing is, it is usually about ordinary people. It's either you or the ordinary people that surround you. The modern playwrights often experiment with unconventional plot structures. So, it's either the long flashbacks, music, or visual projections of a character's private thoughts. So that's the modern playwrights of a modern comedy or a modern play. We have here also the performance of a play. So theater artists include actors, directors, lighting technicians, or the stage crew. So these are the people that involves in that play, in that modern play, or in that comedy, or in that tragedy, what kind of drama or play. Okay, another one we have here, dramatic speech. When we say dramatic speech, we must consider these three. Okay, so first we have here the dialogue, and the second we have here the soliloquy, and the third we have here the monologue. Okay, so let's identify those three that I've mentioned earlier. Okay, so when we say dialogue, it is the conversation, take note, it is the conversation between or among characters. Gets? Okay, guys? So, it is the conversation between or among the characters. That's the dialogue. We have here another thing is the soliloquy. So, when we say soliloquy, it is a speech that one gives to oneself. So, it is your speech that one gives to oneself. So, that's the meaning of the soliloquy. And lastly, we have here the monologue. So, I know some of you is familiar the meaning of monologue. So, when we say monologue, it is the speech given by a single person to an audience. So, it is the interaction between a person or a single person to his or her audience. Okay? So, small recap, we have here the dialogue, the soliloquy, and the monologue. Okay, guys? So, get it? If we have an actors or performers, we have here also the audience. So, who are the audience? Of course, we are the audience, the viewers, the watchers. The audience are those experience the performance. Okay? So, we, the audience, will experience those or their performance. The audience must be understand the story. We, the audience, must understand the whole plot of a story. Okay? So, next, we have here the respond to the characters. So, we, the audience, must respond to the live play, for example, on stage of our performance. So, we are the one who will clap or we are the one who cheer to that excellent or good performance. And then, lastly, we have here the characterization. So, when we say characterization, it is the playwright's technique of creating believable characters. So, take note, guys, it is a technique for creating believable. When we say believable, we believe from it, or we just simply think that it is true. And lastly, we have here indirect and direct. So, okay, let's have small recap. So, those I've mentioned earlier, those are types of drama that you can identify when you are watching or reading a story. So, it's either tragedy, comedy, modern play, or whatsoever. So, what I discussed earlier is my topic, which is the multiculturalism and the drama. Okay, guys. So, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for listening, guys. Once again, I am Ray Ejiado, and always saying, don't ruin your good today by thinking about bad yesterday. Let it go. One UA, one Antique. Keep safe, and God bless everybody.